Confidence from sex. It's a steamy subject, right? I love my wife's body. Yes, it's real, it's true. And it's a part of marriage. That's very, very important. And so, but where does it start? People talk about, sex starts in the kitchen, right? You hear that. And whether you're married or not, this is a very important topic to learn and talk about. And hmm, confidence from sex. Why does sex bring confidence? Well, let's talk about the opposite first. We'll get to that. Okay, you got to stick around. We'll get to that.
Stick around.
But wait, there's more. By the way, I'm Carlos, and this is my beautiful bride.
Yes, Chantel.
For those of you that have never seen us before, heard us, you finally clicked on one of our videos just because all of a sudden it said sex. We'll get to that. Confidence from sex? What? Created by sex? How can that be? We'll get to it. But let's talk about the opposite first. We actually do Marriage Mastery, and we're over on the School platform, if you've heard of that, Epic Your Life over on School, and that's our main place. We do here on Facebook as well, but we love our community there, our private community. Join us, check it out, and it's School spelled with a K.com and Epic Your Life. Check it out. Love to have you be a part of our community over there as well. So, anyways, now the topic. But let's talk about the opposite, because sometimes we got to look at the opposite and what's created and why is there a struggle, first of all, with intimacy? Why is the sex talk like really big, but like nobody wants to talk about it too? The church will not talk about it, right? It's like you put sex on a title, and then all of a sudden everybody's like alert and like, oh, what are they talking about? It's like the word sex. So if we're going to talk about, we're going to give you a little nugget about sex creating confidence. Let's first talk about the negative side of it, why it's taboo, and why intimacy is not talked about. Why is it such taboo? Why is it a negative thing? Um,
Where did it become that, right? Where did it become oppressed, suppressed, hidden, shame, guilt, all of those different things?
And so, we've got this rampant, crazy chaos, trillion-dollar industry of pornography, right? The sexual industry. We've got religion, who is trying to help people with porn addictions, and then masturbation, right? And sexual addiction. And so you've got all these things that are taking place that people, and first of all, let's just talk about this a little bit. Like we've got these addictions, right? I can talk about me. I know what I went through. I know the challenges I faced in my life, and it's actually helped many, many people with their addictions.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually was diagnosed. I went to a doctor, actually a psychiatrist and a counselor, and they did the diagnosis and prognosis, whatever, blah, 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 and even tested my brain. Crazy, right? There was a science for this. And this was about, it don't matter. It was before Chantel. It was in my previous marriage, but I was 19. That's why I was 19 when it took place. And here's what I got diagnosed with. So I know this stuff firsthand. Yes. Okay. Because it's about me. I was diagnosed with a sexual addiction. Now, what is a sexual addiction? Well, it's just like a drug addiction, alcohol addiction. It means that you are addicted to having sex, but the better, and I'm sorry if you have kids around, plug their ears if you don't want them to hear this kind of stuff, but a better definition of it is I was addicted to having an orgasm or to having ejaculation, just release.
Well, let's go there. So what you're addicted to is that as a coping, right?
That's right. That's why it's therein lies the addiction, and therein lies the problem or the challenge is when you're using it as a medication. Mm-hmm. When you're using it for the sake of avoidance of a problem or a challenge or a fear. And so you're instead of, it's the medication. That's the bottom line. Anything that you use to medicate versus facing the situation.
And
That's
when-
where then, and when we talk about addictions, by the way, there are beneficial addictions and habits called habits, like people, and then there's the word addiction then usually is associated with things that are negative. Okay. So because they bring death and destruction, or they lead to a very, and I will tell you again, because of my own personal, all I can talk about is my personal experiences, and personally how many men and people that I've helped through addictions. What happens in that addiction of pornography, even, it will lead to darker places. It just does. Okay. It always feeds on itself. It's always hungry, wanting more. And then it gets into some dark places. I'm going to keep it at that. That's the tempered version for sure. So now about me. So I'm diagnosed. I'm married to my previous wife, Lee. I'm diagnosed with a sexual addiction. How did this even come up? Because what had happened was she found out that I had this is going to date me because back then when I was 19 and I'm 47, I started to say I was in my 30s. I'm having a relapse here. 47 and feeling great. Oh, and still performing. I'm just kidding. Anyway, so I'm 47. Yeah, that's right. 47 years old, and now I lost my total train of thought because I was thinking about my wife's body.
So 19 years old, was using the
Oh yeah,
calling the
call
sex
line.
line.
That's where I was going with this. That's where I'm dating myself.
Yeah. Let's speed it up
So
a
yeah,
little bit. You're
the
taking
story,
a long time.
yeah, the story here is setting it up with sex hotlines, and that was my addiction. Also went to clubs, nightclubs, strip clubs. I'm just being real and raw, and I had pornography too as well. That was my coping mechanism, my addiction. But let me tell you how it all got triggered. Okay, because you might actually see something in your own life that you're using as a coping mechanism through this example in this story. So my previous wife, Lee, anytime I felt rejected from her or disconnected, or I did something wrong, I'm in trouble, then I needed to medicate. Felt disconnected from her. All of a sudden, I wanted to go connect to something else. I wanted to feel connected. I wanted to feel appreciated or feel.
You wanted that hit of
That's
dopamine.
Right. That's right. So then what it came down to was I would go and medicate with the sex hotline or like I said, and then really where the medication came in was when I had the release through masturbation. Okay. So now I'm setting it up. Again, I'm sorry if children are watching. Forgive me, but this is an adult conversation and it's going to lead somewhere. Remember what we started with? How does sex bring confidence? Okay. So in those, by the way, when Lee married me, my previous wife, when I was 19 years old. And this when the addiction was discovered because of my choices, and she discovered my habits, my addiction during that time, my coping mechanism. So she decided to stay with me. It actually to be honest, it involved another person. So I'm grateful that Lee was willing to stay with me through an affair, is what it comes down to. It's our first year of our marriage. And I didn't realize I had this addiction, but I did know one thing. I was a womanizer. My mom will tell you that. Sorry, mom, if you're watching, I love you. But she knows it. And that was the thing. But that was the whole thing. It had become an addiction. Okay. This womanizer thing. And my mom knew I was having sex. I'm sorry, mom, again. I was doing my best. But the reality is when it comes down to addictions, it's like you can't control it. It is real. Like ask any drug addiction, any heroin or alcohol, right? You're driven by it. So I know firsthand. Food. So I had become a womanizer, and I had created in that womanizer part, and also I was medicating even during that, as I discovered things that I was coping with, triggered medication with sex, became a womanizer, and the sexual addiction was formed, brought it into my marriage, feel disconnected from my wife. Now all of a sudden I go connect to this addiction, right? So now can you see the cycle and the pattern? That's what I'm trying to make clear. All right. Now I'm married though. Why wouldn't that be enough? Again, because it wasn't about the sex. It was really about the connection. And then the disconnection took place, right? And so when that disconnection took place, I needed to feel connected or feel appreciated by somebody or something, and I needed that release too. Okay, so to explain the addiction, so you can understand, and like Chantel said, like a hit.
No, like scientifically, right? We get dopamine from a lot of different sources. It can be food, it can be music, it can be, why people have, animals. It's, a hug gives off that. So if we're not receiving that, we're going to find it. We're going to figure out how we can get it, right?
Now enters in, uh, and by the way, what I want to convey to you as well is that this is a natural desire. How do I know that? Well, because at the age of puberty, what you're going to find is in males and even females, God designed us with this desire, and God designed us to where we will have a release whether we want to or not. You don't have to masturbate to have it. It's called nocturnal release. It's a scientific term. You can look it up you can go look it up. So again, it's natural, and actually go do your study and research as well. The pancreas is what creates the sperm, which then you have the release. Again, I'm not a scientist, I'm talking about my own research and what I discovered. And so I actually was healthier because I was experiencing having all this sex, and then also my addiction involved masturbation. Okay. Now, it is proven that that's what the pancreas is for. And we got a lot of pancreas cancer running rampant. Okay. Now enters the church and religion, and makes you feel guilty and suppressed for having these desires. And you need to cut them all off. You need to stop them. You need to prevent them. I didn't go through that experience of ever preventing it and suppressing it and stopping it, because I went from my addiction, sexual addiction, okay, straight into being married. And then, so it never stopped. But what I needed to get help with was the addiction part of it and using that as my coping mechanism. Long story short, I actually then just created an addiction with my previous wife, just so you know, which is called codependency. That's not what we're here to talk about today, though.
Transferred.
Yeah, I got transferred, because that's what happens. If you've ever been around it, you'll learn that one thing gets transferred. So you want to transfer it to a healthy addiction, is the bottom line. But this is a question. So then we're told to not masturbate by religion. And yet science has proven that that's not healthy for you. Okay. And now I'm not saying, not here to tell you, I'm here to tell you though, that marriage is where the blessing comes and the release. Because also if you look at King David and King Solomon, they had multiple, those of you that study the word, I do too, I like it. They had multiple wives and concubines. Women back then, and even to this day, it's still a challenge. We're told that their desires don't matter, that it's just about the men. Well, that's true even then, right? That's why the kings had multiple wives and concubines. It was just about them, but it created the king. This is not where we're getting into. This is where sex creates the confidence. King David was known as one of the greatest warriors to ever live, but he had multiple wives and multiple concubines. I think there's a correlation there. What do you think? I know for myself, I know that I am a very confident man, but I also know that when I am more active with my wife, which is a good thing, that I am more confident for sure. And when I'm less active, I become less confident. I feel small. I feel like a failure. I feel like a little man. Okay. Now let's take what religion does and suppresses that release and that desire, and does it in women and men. And then you get married and you're supposed to have this desire. You're supposed to have epic, right? Epic intimacy, epic relationship, epic marriage. How is that possible when you have no clue how to do it and you've suppressed it and you've actually sometimes cut it off? You might as well become a eunuch. And if you don't know what that is, that's okay. But the point is that it's God's given desire. He designed us to have this desire and to fulfill it. This is where I am very passionate about it, in marriage. And this is part of marriage mastery, is being intimate with your bride or your husband. And to both desire each other, you have to work on it, and you have to be willing to work on it. And Here's what's so fascinating. We take a lot of flack because we do this challenge. We didn't do it this year, but we will start it up again. We did it for about 5 years. It's called Intimacy Challenge. We challenge couples that are married only to have sex every day of the month for 30 days. I'm telling you, we get a lot of pushback on that. That's wrong, and it's fine. It's okay. We are courageously indifferent. We know what works. We've seen it work with thousands of other couples. And so it's real. The fruit is there. I also know and see the results of religion that is suppressing men and suppressing women.
Yeah.
And suppressing ultimately desire. So I know this is not an easy topic. It's a heavy topic. And lots of you got lots of opinions, and that's great. You've got lots of beliefs. But what I would say to you is this question. I want you to write this down. If you're watching, would you be willing to write this down? What do you believe about sex? What do you believe about orgasms? What do you believe about intimacy? What do you believe about
Masturbation?
Masturbation, yes. What do you believe about even what was I going to say? Something about intercourse, right? All these things that take place in a couple, in a married couple that I believe is best. Yeah, even what do you believe about marriage? What do you believe about desire and pleasure for a man, for a woman? What do you believe about that? And then that's not all. On all those things that I just said, here's a very, very important part of it. Why? What do you believe and why? Super important that you don't leave the why off, because I can almost guarantee you believe that because somebody taught you it either through religious shame or guilt, heaviness, burden, and made you feel like you were wrong for having desires and that you needed to control and have self-control. Well, tell that to King David. That was never told to King David. He just kept having more wives and more concubines. So I don't know. All I know is that I know what it's done for me, the confidence. And I promise you, when I am away from my wife and not having this release, if I'm away from her for a while, I have it anyways. Now, you can do whatever you want with that. I'm being real about myself. Because again, there's something, first of all, it's the prostate thing. It's good for the prostate, number one. Number two, it's good for testosterone. There's many men out there taking testosterone. Okay. And it's good for the confidence, bringing confidence and feeling like a man. Like it's just real. And I love my bride so much. There has been seasons where we were away from each other. And guess what? It was still us being intimate together. And that's why we do that challenge even. The challenge is not that you have intercourse. The challenge is about having the release. One or the other has to have a release. That's part of the qualification. Why do we talk about all this?
Well, you just keep going, and I'm like,
yeah, she's so awesome. Go, baby, go.
Well, why are we in the state that we're in currently? Okay. We look at, a super high, I would say almost 90% of the population of our clientele, right, are pushing 40s, some older, right? Single, sexually oppressed by religion, shame, guilt, all of these different factors. So we work with a lot of the results of that, right? So, looking at that, why society is the way it is right now. So there's this giant problem of porn. There's just all of this stuff surrounding it. And then, the trajectory of singles in the church gets older and older and older of staying single. Like, why is that? Well, I mean, let's look at Church is a business. Who are their workers? The people who are not married and who don't have kids, right? And not to say that that's an intentional design, maybe it is. However, it is where the church has come to in the current state, and it's more and more and more. So now you have this desire that is created by design, like all of the desire, the senses, all of the senses, all of the places in our body, the erotic places that our body respond to sexually, sensually, intimately, that are for, pleasure. They are for pleasure by design. They have been shut down, criticized, condemned, shamed, guilt, suppressed, oppressed for all of these years for so many people. You have the population that has rebelled against it, who has experimented, who has you know gone a whole different route. Again, we don't believe in shame and guilt. Every journey is a journey. And however, we look at the population that has fallen into that category of shame and guilt for even the thoughts of it, right? Shame and guilt for, oh my gosh, this feels good. I must I must need to punish myself.
Yeah.
Because I just deserve shame and guilt because I had those thoughts. Like that is a real thing. And if you are experiencing that, I am so sorry. I am so sorry that you have been groomed for that kind of shame and guilt by the church, by leaders, by families, generations. It's real.
And there's been whole programs built around this. And it's the heart behind it is good. I'm not here to put those programs down. The heart behind it is truly to help. Mainly this comes up for men, to help men with their quote unquote masturbation problem. It's a real thing that they're trying to help with.
Oh, let alone talk about a woman's masturbation problem.
Yeah, it's real too. But is it a problem? That's my question.
Mm-hmm.
And why do you believe it's a problem? Because you're not having self-control. But if God designed your body that way, where is the freedom? Now, let me tell you where this sums up. Is because we're almost out of time. And if you have questions, message us. We're open to talk about this, have conversations. But here's the reality. Instead of suppressing it, we should be cultivating it. And we would put the pornography people out of business if we cultivated it where? In the marriage. Then more people would want to get married if they knew how awesome it could be. So that is the solution. The challenge is, look, the cult is because it's a good habit to cultivate in a marriage, right? Yeah. I told you have to exchange a habit. So if you exchange it now where this is the thing that you do that's beneficial habit now. Now coping and not dealing with situations and wanting to like hide them under the rug and not deal with them, that's a whole nother issue. But being able to use even sex, intimacy in your marriage when you're frustrated and you need to release, what a blessing. Yeah. It's a blessing. I think that's probably why King David did that and had so many wives and concubines. And so the reality is, though, we should be cultivating this, but there's whole businesses built around not cultivating it, but suppressing it. There's one of them is Viagra. Another one is the porn industry. Another one would also be child abuse and molestation, right? And it's terribly on a rampant in different cultures and different communities. And again, because they're trying to suppress something that God didn't give us to suppress. That's right. He wants us to cultivate it and grow it, and it will grow your confidence in men and in women.
That's right.
And we need to create freedom in the marriage and help get the word out that, you know what, I've had conversations with some of our clients even And it breaks my heart. And this is their words. This is word for word what they've said to me. Until I get victory over this masturbation problem, I'm not safe to be married. I'm not safe for a woman, or I'm not safe to have children. And it broke my heart. I literally heard that before. And here's the thing, that is a lie. God gave you the desire to have release. God gave you a desire to enjoy intimacy and sex. We need to cultivate it in the right lane, in the right way, and that's in marriage. That's how you have epic marriage, is you have epic intimacy in that marriage. We love you guys. I hope this was beneficial. I'm sure we opened up a can of worms, but guess what? We love you enough to not stay silent about it. And I got fired up today because of recognizing how important this message is and how many people are hurting and weighed down with shame and guilt. And there's many good people out there trying to help them. But instead of suppressing it, we need to get them married and set them free. That's the reality. So will you work with me to help people get married so they can be free in their intimacy and enjoy each other, explore each other's bodies, and let that passion and let that desire run rampant in with each other? It's fun.
Yeah.
And I promise you, it's better than anything you ever experienced when you let it be free.
We're really passionate about creating and cultivating a healthy family dynamic, right? Healthy family, healthy marriages, healthy children, healthy identities. Really, really passionate about, awareness, freedom, and ownership, right? Choosing what you believe in, why. No, having a broad spectrum of awareness so that you can make the decision for yourself. Freedom lies in understanding. So when you understand what you believe in, why, about all of these different things, it helps you to be able to function on a healthy manner and helps you to teach your kids, right? So we don't need more generations of oppression and shame and guilt. We also don't need, stop playing.
I don't know how that thumb.
We also don't need, future generations that are like on the whole other spectrum of rebellion and all of those things. Balance. Like let's let the pendulum swing to the center where we can find balance, healthy, understanding, joy, thriving, all of the things that create that kind of a legacy. So that's what we're passionate about. We love you. We believe in you.
God designed you for desire. That's the message. And guess what? That desire that's in you will absolutely, when fed and cultivated, will absolutely bring you more confidence. Promise you that. If this has been beneficial to you, we've got some more content over on our school platform. Go to school.com, Epic Your Life. We've got more content there, and we want to create more content like this. If it's beneficial, let us know, and we'll create some more of it. Okay? So I'm Carlos, beautiful bride Chantel. I love you guys. Have a great day. Let us know in the comments. Seriously. Talk to you soon.